Okay, so we're on with Stormy tonight. Um, like I was saying before, I the hard time I have with when government steps in to do something. Well, it's kind of simply that a government is a process of taking and giving, I guess. So in order to make something happen, you have to take it away from somewhere else because resources at this time are finite. And so if the government comes in and tells a business you have to do this to support the COVID, where your business model over here, you were a business lady, has been built. You've got this business model built usually prior to the year you're running in, or sometimes out 5 years. And then if the government comes in and says you have to support this, then that business model that they built, all those expectations, plans, growth, whatever, they stand on a fine line of business failure. And then, or the government can say, we're going to pay for that. Well, then that comes to abuse in other ways, like a debt clock, like a government going into further insane debt. Yes, this would be a drop in the bucket, but eventually that bucket gets overfilled and then it flows out. And I mean, the failure of nations is always led by fiat currency, always led by overprinting of money. And commonly, when you look at historically, when the real ugly stuff happens, that is in there also. I doubt, just to throw out the evil Hitler name, I doubt Hitler would have got into power without the Weimar Republic overprinting their money. I doubt Hitler would have showed up there. Of course, you can argue there were other causes for that. The Treaty of Versailles and the repercussions of all that. The United States entering the war. I mean, all that. But I don't like to see the money be diluted to where people who save and live a humble and valued life end up that they get totally wrecked because a government cranks the printers onto 11, you know. But
Yeah.
that's just my humble rants. But anyway, but let's talk some good news. How's your race been going? Have you met a lot of support in the community? How's all that going?
Well, it's been really heartwarming, actually. The support in the community has been great. There's been good and bad. I'll say that a lot comes out pol- during campaign runs. So, as a first-time runner and don't consider myself a politician, it's been really interesting to see the good and the bad. The good from the people of Tooele, it's why I wanted to run. Um, it's always my home. It's always where my heart is. And the support that's come out from both parties has been really heartwarming, honestly. Like every time you see, I haven't been able to really engage on social media lately because there's also been the bad sides, like a lot of hate comes out and a lot of meanness. Um, but it's the good posts and the good comments of support that makes it all worth it. It's an interesting process. The whole thing is interesting. And campaigning itself starts becoming somewhat of a political stance. I had one um, post about, because I'm running as a Democrat and I support the Second Amendment. And someone wrote, well, if you support the Second Amendment, why didn't you run as a Republican? And I think it's those party lines that make this so complicated and hard, and especially at this time with such a crazy presidential race happening, and the divide amongst the parties becoming so strong. I've been a Republican, and I feel like or for me, that our right is to be able to switch parties when you may identify one more with one at the time. And so I did. And
Or even if you just want a different message that the party isn't giving. If you want that message to be flown, the weaker party is generally where someone will slide into if they've got a point that the stronger party is ignoring or keeping quiet.
And two Republicans can't run at once, correct?
That's right. Well, you can run against each other in the primary,
Yeah.
but when it comes to the election, you pretty much have to be in one party or the other. I was a registered libertarian before I decided to run, and switched parties, but I am identifying more with the Democratic Party right now, but supporting the amendments of our Constitution feels like you do that, or should be doing it no matter what side of the aisle that you're on. I mean, it's our Constitution. It's already written. It is. And while there may be things in it that, any individual could feel like, oh, that should be adjusted or whatnot, we have to live and abide by it. And that's the way it is. So,
and most libertarians will switch back and forth between parties. I've noticed, like even myself, I'll go into the Republican Party quite often. And, in Tooele, I can even hang out with Democrats because sometimes they seem more Republican than the Republicans themselves.
yeah, it's really interesting that we have to choose. And I think this presidential election, more than any other, has really defined lines. But I think it'd be hard pressed to find, well, I shouldn't say that. I'm sure there are people that say I'm 100% this, and everything that the party principles, represent, I agree with 100% on either side. I think it would be difficult. I think the right thing always, any relationship, is meeting in the middle. And, that's, while the parties each may have extreme stances on one thing or the other, the right place that we always meet when it's the right place is somewhere in the middle. And so I'm glad that libertarians do that often. I've only been one of each party once so far. But
Yeah.
but it's been it's been great. Like I said, just even now when I see somebody post like that they voted for me, it almost brings a tear to my eye. That's a great vote, and it's a vote of confidence and belief, and that's what, if I win, that'll mean everything to me. What the people of Chipola County think and how they feel, and what they need representation on. So it's been good and bad.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Now, as far as this early voting, how are you feeling about that? How's the we know we've got to cover your experience in a minute, but as a person running, what's your impression on that so far?
I think it's good. I think during this time, especially the in-person voting, everybody going on one day, it's not the right year for that. But I like the flexibility because everyone deserves to vote. And the idea that you can, I made a lot of posts about make a plan and vote. And this year you do have to make a plan. You either get your ballot in on time, drop it off at the drop box, or send it in the mail, or show up and pick it up, or vote in person. Whatever it is almost like for the first time we have to actually make a plan and vote. So I think that the early voting is probably, it doesn't feel like a bad thing. If people know who they're going to vote for, they should be able to vote a few weeks before. I don't know if this changes the way it's done forever, but it surely feels like it would be easier on people that have to count the votes or accumulate the votes all in one day, that there might be some efficiencies that are gained from it. Everybody gets a chance. It's not just going to be sitting on the counter like, oh, I forgot to do this, or, I'm going out of town that day. Whatever the issue is, it feels like more flexibility with voting and voters is the right way to get more people involved. And we're seeing that. I can't remember what the number was today, but 70 million people have voted. I think it's that high. And that was 58% of the vote from 2016. So that's great. The more participation we get, the better it is. And that's how voting should be. It should be adaptable to every citizen because that's their right. So I like it. I think it's okay. I don't know if there's a flip argument to that, but it feels like we should have more people voting and make it easier for them to do so. Especially when you think of senior citizens or someone that might have a harder time getting around when they're sitting outside in a cold state, waiting to vote when maybe they could go on the previous Friday and get it done quicker and easier on them. Feels like a good thing. I don't
Yeah,
know if that's a popular answer or where people really stand on it, but I think it's okay.
yeah, no, that answer's fine. I don't have I know there's been some kind of national controversy with voting. Um, there's been some issues, but overall, I, I, I guess any more access to voting is fine. There's
It's good access. Yep, it's
absolutely
good
nothing
access.
wrong with
And,
that.
we hear about voter suppression or, uh, a fraudulent vote.
Hmm.
Our system should hold tight. If those things are possible, we should be questioning that every year, not just this year.
Yeah, yeah. There was a
Naturally, I seek more convenience on everything that I do in life. I think it's biological for me to say I want things to be easier. And I'll be honest, if I could just vote over my cell phone, God, that'd be so much easier.
It should be possible, actually. And you think it'd be more trackable and easier on everybody through the whole stream, of voting, where people are counting paper ballots, and the blockchain technology, which, can be encrypted and done once and tracked forever. Um, you think that we can get there? I think we probably will get there as a nation, but it seems to take us a little longer for big change like that, a change that affects every American, and then in rural areas or people that don't have access to technology, that would create a problem. But, it can happen. I think it should simplify.
well, we could have multiple means of voting. You could be one of those ones that sign up to do it on your phone or a computer. Uh, I think we need to have more, voter availability, or more voting station availability. I know were I to choose to vote in person, I'd go to the elementary school down the street there, and that's where I would vote. Uh, but you know,
Not this time.
yeah, I don't, and again, you were talking about the two political parties we have, and people hopping back and forth, and I think that's fine. My family was traditionally Democrat up until probably the late 70s, and that's when they made the switch. Honestly, probably about the time of Reagan is when they made the
Yeah.
switch over, and there was an alignment of values change amongst the Democrats, and some of the some members of the family switched earlier, especially during the Red Scare. We had some family members that swapped over because they saw the two parties align up different during McCarthy's time, and then some during Carter, and well, after Carter, during Reagan, we saw some change there. Me, I don't go. I think, I mean, the way they name themselves and go opposite. The they've got two names which are Democrat and Republican, which should mean that one side fights for democracy, but they shut that out of their um, party this year, and 4 years ago they shut it out, and the popular person wasn't allowed in democratically. The party superseded the democratic ideals of their party, and then you've got the Republicans, which I think on most cases they speak conservatively and spend like their hair's on fire. And I don't know. I think a mixed political hierarchy would be better. Maybe we should explore a parliamentary system where we could have multiple parties and multiple agendas fought for, and make them earn it a little more, where the two-party system, winner take all, the winner kind of just makes up the rules and spends all the money, and then 4 years later or 6 years later they swap sides and do everything that they said the other side did. So I know it's shocking I don't vote when I see these things. It's crazy.
Well, I want you to vote this year.
It's a question I toss around in my mind. I could call out who I would vote for on the political stage, but I'm not a super fan of anyone, and I don't know. I don't know if I see a positive outcome over the next 20 years for this nation.
Have you ever voted, Jared?
I think I voted for Clinton when I was 18 in the Army. Just because, you're in the Army. Then I don't even think I'd learned how to pull on my own underwear by then. I was such a child.
I'm sure the Army taught you at least that much.
Well, they probably had 4 or 5 FMs on it that I ignored. But
Yeah.
anyways, so let's go on. So we're super glad to have you back, and I know I really enjoyed our conversation with you. I like that you're a business lady. I like the business side, getting into politics, where it's not a career politician, where it's someone who has experienced how to run something and what they have to do to make things work. Because in business, you have to do a little more give and take, and you kind of learn to make that happen while you're not spending other people's money, versus government, where they tend to be real easy at spending other people's money.
But yeah, and as a public company, people have invested in you, right? It's like they're voting and rooting for your company too. And as a leader, you can't 100% positive rating is probably never the best thing. So you do things both ways that make some people really happy and some people really mad, and they might not like you, or they might not, agree with everything you've done, but you still have to walk that line. And I think that was part, or at least that experience is part of what made me confident enough to run for office. And I think we talked about it last time, like the inspiration, thinking so many years of my life, like I didn't belong there. I wasn't like those people. And then realizing as I got older, maybe that's the real reason to do it, is to start changing the narrative a little bit, and changing the way it's looked at, or the way it's viewed, and reminding people that if you're a U.S. citizen, you are qualified to be in our government. You get to, you are qualified to run. You get to. Those are our requirements. And so for folks that don't identify with politicians as we know them today, maybe those are the folks that need to start running. And that was part of what inspired me to run, and in addition, the times that people have voted in the legislature turns their vote into something different. And that just, gets under my skin. There's zero reason for that. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with altering it. I agree with legislation proposing the ballot that they want people to vote on, or the way that they want it or think that it should be, and then let us vote on that. So it was those things that made me think it's time to run. And then also, in our county, we have many positions that go, that nobody runs against, that a Democrat won't step in and run, and they feel like they can't because the odds or the parties against them, or the majority here.
Could we have you slide into your mic just a little bit closer?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm going off of this. I guess I could. Oh, wait. Hold Oh, is this better?
Oh,
There
my.
you go.
Oh, I forgot. This is my little own podcast area. It's like the mic was super far away. I don't know. I totally forgot about it.
Yeah, we need to get Davis set up like that for next time one of us becomes Typhoid Mary.
But it's, those are the reasons that I ran. And, folks asked actually, like, why wouldn't I go for a US seat or try something like that? And honestly, learning from the ground up is the way I've always done everything. And running in Tooele is like, this is where I grew up. This is, where this is it. This is where my comfort food is, right?
And this
come
is
home.
where you can have the most impact on your friends and neighbors.
Yeah, my granddaughter's raised here. This is, it's important. It's important that people who might not fit into that current, system that is largely Republican run here, it's sometimes hard to find even a Democratic candidate that would step up to it and take it on. And I've experienced that too.
Yeah,
because it is hard.
It's funny how when you get into the big cities, they're dominated by the Democrats. And then you get into the small rural areas, they're dominated by Republicans. And then you've got those middle areas, kind of like Salt Lake City is a middle-sized city, or the Iron Range, or places like that where they actually have competing grounds right now. Those are the interesting places.
Yeah, probably the ones with the balance. The more diversity that you can have when you're figuring out a problem is the best. The more voices that can weigh in with different points of view, you can usually land on something for the greater good, even though everybody's not going to be happy.
The thing I like about those places is they usually don't land on anything. So the government sits stalled and the people take self-ownership. And that's when success happens.
That does make sense. And that's true.
So with your campaigning experiences, all the positives that you've experienced, I'm certain that you've experienced plenty of negatives that have affected your life as well.
Yeah.
I'd like to dive into that.
Yeah. So there's been a few rumors going around, and I definitely want to address them. And I've learned quickly that even in our small town, that politics come into play. I guess I wasn't right. You have to get a thick skin to do this. That's what I've learned out of the gate. And being, as a female, apparently that's diversity. And, on the opposite side of the majority is also diversity. And some of the things I stand for, I think might be considered diverse. But I did experience some pretty interesting tactics during my run. And there were a few things that I think I always said. So I said to you guys, I'm going to be transparent. I think on our last show, if I didn't say it, I was thinking it. But I'm going to be transparent about this whole entire thing. I talked about constituent care, and I mean that. Like, there's no reason we can't be in touch with our constituents, even if we're, on the Hill. And constituent care, and then everything that I'd experienced on the way, because you wonder, like, do you sell out? Like, are politicians really going in with the right thing in mind? And then the bureaucracy of it all changes them somehow, or just maybe the desire to win starts playing into the way that they work. And I do have a desire to win. I'm not going to say that. And I want to win fair and square. So a couple things that happened that I do want to talk about, because I think they were unfair. Part of that, starts with people online. Like, I know that Tooele County isn't hateful, and Tooele County, I think there was a time we were voted one of the most friendliest places in America, and it wasn't that long ago. I think it was just maybe 5 years ago, if that. And that's what I think about the county, like a place, that comfort food, that warm hug, whatever it is. But we're very large with families and that type of support, the way we support each other. So the hatred that came out through Facebook, or the attacks that I had, those were pretty hard, you know, and leading at Overstock, yes, I've taken some shots. I've done things that weren't the popular opinion. But some of the things that, you know, people were asking me, like one Facebook guy that was just so adamant about my time at Overstock. And I mean, basically, what he was saying is, did you sleep your way to the top? Without saying it. He was beating around the bush and talking about rumors and all of the things. And he said he would ask any woman candidate that. Any woman candidate those types of questions if she'd had experienced the success that I had.
What
And
kind of jaded thoughts run through that guy's mind?
I
You
don't
know?
know, but it went on and on. Like I started responding to him, you know, because I was like, hey, wait a minute, you know, my history is written. You can go look at the accomplishments that I received. And I'm, you know, consider myself pretty humble about those things. But, you know, the history is written. It was a public company. There's a board of directors. There's all kinds of things that go on. Um, but it didn't end. And, you know, again, the awesome people at Tooele actually came to my defense and was coming back at him on it, but he wouldn't let up, you know, he just wouldn't let up, and then turned it into me saying I needed the vote, you know, should I vote for you because you're a woman? And it's, you know, asking questions because I'm a woman was actually the wrong thing there. But it's things like that. I've been called a socialist commie. You know, we had Fred. Yeah, I think that's what the name, wasn't it? Like a
I would rather sleep my way to the top than be a socialist.
Well, fortunately for me, I didn't have to do either. But, you know, it's just that type of insight into running for a state office that came out. I don't believe that about our town or our community. I still believe that we are good, we take care of each other, and that's what makes Tooele great and makes us a tight-knit group. So maybe there's just a few of those and some of the trolls and people that almost made little threats like, oh, you're a police. I can't remember what the guy said, but someone was coming at me for, you know, going to dig into my background and bring his cop friends, which was another, right? He's going to look me up, bring his cop friends. So those types of things are really disappointing when you're doing any type of campaign. Like I've said out loud, this is the most vulnerable thing I've ever done. And I've done some really vulnerable things. But this one, you know, it rips you right open.
Plus, I'm just going to interject real quick, is that
Craig.
Our signs were destroyed.
Oh.
I mean, they were purposely destroyed, and it takes money and it takes time. But we've also had one of our neighbors who had a sign get their house shot by a golf ball gun aiming at her sign. I mean, and that.
Yeah, those kind of things were super disappointing too. Like we would put up signs, and my sister-in-law did a lot of that for me, or people that would request a sign and we'd drive them to their house and they would get taken over. Pick him up. My dog, every time I'm on with you guys, this dog's like, I want to see Jared and David. But they kept getting destroyed, like not just taken, but thrown in the road, broken, to the point that I eventually filed a police report when the one on 36, when you come out of Overlake and you're facing 36, everybody puts up their political signs there.
Yeah.
And that one, you know, my sister-in-law actually built a wooden frame and it was pulled over and stomped on. And, you know, I don't want to say that I solely was the victim of this, but it was a lot. You know, there were places at the top of 7th Street. Anytime we put a sign up there, it was taken down. On the corner of 4th North and Broadway, it was taken down, and my opponent's signs would stay. And that, you know, that's just, well, it's against the law, one. But second, it's like if you run as a candidate, that's just a respect thing. You just leave it up. Everybody's doing that. We're all trying really hard, but it happened every day. We put the sign back up, they would take it down. We put it up, they take it down and replace it with someone else's sign, or move a sign over to the spot that we had it. So that was really a lot. And like Greg said, one of my neighbors had a shot, like a golf ball shot at her house, and believes that they were aiming for my sign just because of where the golf ball hit her house and made a little ding in it. So that was super disappointing. And again, I don't think it's reflective of the majority of how our county and city behaves. Or at least I hope not. But those kind of things came out. They shouldn't come out in political, elections. They shouldn't come out at all.
Oh,
The
I
most-
agree. I agree that sign destroying. Well, one, that's destroying private property. So, if I ever saw someone doing it, well, I would walk away minus one shoe because I'd push it a foot into their ass and pull my foot out. But that's messed up. And also, okay, best case scenario, there's just some shithead teenagers that want attention. Best case scenario. But if people are doing it to try to take the voice away of someone else, that's abhorrent. That's horrible.
Yeah. So those things, and I feel like that's part of the transparency. Like everybody should be ready for that. Those are things I just simply wasn't prepared for. The rumors, so there's been rumors about, do I live in Tooele? Do I not live in Tooele? And the truth is this, I own 2 homes. One's in Erta. My childhood home that I've owned longer than my Erta house is my home. That's my home. That's been my home since I was about 5 years old. That is my home.
The one in town.
Yeah. And I was getting ready to sell the Erta house before COVID hit, and then I was unable to get people in to do certain repairs. And I am a mask wearer, so I took it very seriously. I have a friend with stage 4 cancer, and I am one of her people. And it's not a large group of people. There's just a few of us. She's been one of my best friends since I was 18 years old. So she's like a top 5, 10 person in my life. And there'd never be a situation where I'd ever be okay with taking that disease to her. So I have played it extremely safe. So I didn't get the house up for sale. There's also all these props, Prop 1 and 2 going on, like what's going to happen in Erta, whatever. But this is a rather large house, and I am a single woman. Like it's more than I can handle. So COVID delayed my plans there. But my house in town is one that I've always stayed at. My friend with cancer lived there, and I went and stayed with her despite the times I was traveling, and would help take care of her while we got her home ready for her to be able to live in. She's in a wheelchair now and just needed some accommodations that COVID also slowed down, but we finally got it done. And throughout that process, I registered to run in March. I declared candidacy in March. And as of on October 5th, I received a voters challenge where 2 people decided to challenge whether I had the right to vote from my home in Broadway, which is my primary residence. And they challenged that right to vote. And as a result, I received that on October 5th, needed to respond by the 13th, which I did. They requested more information and had to respond by like the 22nd or something. Yeah, I think it was the 22nd.
So the right to vote was on whether your residence was the one in town or the one in Erta.
That's correct.
Even though the zip code's still the same, the mail ladies shake hands every morning. I mean, it's not like it's a drastic change even to another county. You're in an unincorporated part of technically the town. So either way, it's not enough of an argument that it should have even been made.
Like,
No.
how does one even go about challenging your residence? I mean, is that something anyone can do and just stall tactic somebody?
Well, in this case, my opponent pulled reports and picked out like my taxes, pulled police reports, my registration to vote, which is at my in-town residence, and just pulled a lot of data and information on me that you have to pay for. And then two other people, one of which is on the city council running unopposed, actually challenged my vote. They don't live anywhere near me. They live up by Settlement Canyon, but yet they, I don't know if they're driving down the street every day or just monitoring the house. But that's how you can challenge it. You can just say, I don't think she lives there. And at which point I had to, it wasn't hard to prove, but I had to go to my friends and neighbors and ask them, to write statements about our lives together, which is, people who come to the house, people who have stayed at the house with me, and then my neighbors who I see at the house all the time.
So it was they were just pulling a nuisance card and then hoping that you didn't rise up to meet it then.
Yeah, that's
Right, and I want to jump in just because I just want to give a clear time frame of how this happened and why I think it's unjust. Is back in August, her opponent started this with the county clerk. We have documents which we've supplied to you, David, that you can see it started in August and the clerk knew about it. Okay, we have affidavits from the neighbors that Doug went door to door asking somebody to do a sworn statement against Stormy, and they denied it. They said, no, she lives there. Okay, this was in August. Stormy gets notice 3 to 4 days before the deadline where they had to serve her in October, telling her we're challenging her residence. And I'm going to throw this out too. The county clerk has a Doug Sager sign supporting her opponent in her yard, and she's the one that knew in August, and she's the one that's going to make the decision whether Stormy's vote will be able to vote or not. And their office did confirm to Stormy's attorney is that their plan was if Stormy could not vote, they would go ahead and throw Stormy's off the ballot. They would take away again the people's choice if they elected her, like the opponent did with the 2 referendums. They were going to throw her off, and even if the people voted for her, they were going to overturn it on a technicality if she didn't respond.
Well, so one, that is true, but it's not against the law for a county clerk to have a political sign in her yard. What I think is, the timeline was a little disturbing, and the fact that a city council member was also one that opposed my vote on the other side of the aisle, that is a little disturbing. And, the reason why we're even talking about this is the idea of transparency. The idea of transparency and what it really means to run for office and how this is, almost there's a piece of where they want to protect it. So what the attorney said was that if my voters challenge, like, let's say I wasn't able to prove it and I lost on that, then they would be able to go back and say, oh, if she wins this election, you'll have her on a technicality. That they would be able to go back and say that. I don't know if the county clerk had said that herself, but that is true. That's what happened.
Well, I would hope the county clerk would be honest and impartial on.
Yeah, that's what you'd hope. So, and you do hope. I have nothing to accuse her of, but I did want to, and again, telling this out of transparency, and I wanted to share the story because, I heard there was a rumor of people questioning where I lived in the district, and that's a rumor that I need to dispel. If there's a rumor of me sleeping to the top, in my work, that's a rumor that I can dispel. And I want to do that. I want to do that
That's just a a jealous man. I want to say to him, I hope he listens. I'm sorry your life is shit. I'm sorry you didn't make it anywhere. Don't take it out on Stormy. The lady proved her success in the field she chose. I'm sorry you're butthurt about that. Hopefully you don't cry yourself to sleep too much at night because that can dehydrate you. But don't Anyways, don't be a jerk.
His
to her.
name's
And
Cody.
you know what, guys, if you're out there and you want to ask a female politician if she slept to the top, don't dance around the question. Be a man and say, hey, look, this is what I'm feeling right now. Can you validate it or not? I mean, it's the same effect as when Bill Clinton slept with his intern and denied it. Whereas if he just said, yeah, that's what happened, he would have never had a problem at
No,
all.
I think Bill was scared. Bill
Bill
scared.
should have been scared.
It's been proven. His old lady's known to get harsh.
I gotta lift my dog up.
But-
Okay.
Oh yeah, let's
Um,
see the dog.
But every time with you guys. But I did want to, I don't want it to come across like that I feel like I'm a victim, because I don't. I've had much tougher, things in my life. But I do want people to be aware of it. Even in our little town, there's things like this going on. And I don't find it necessary. I mean, they could have just asked what the deal was with the 2 residences, but they could have asked when I filed to run. It's no secret. I also own a couple other properties out here. I've invested in this city. I plan to be here. So I think, what?
You pay taxes.
I pay taxes. Yes, I do. And I happily pay them ish. You have to.
Oh my
but
gosh.
it's where I
Don't say
put
that.
my stake in the ground.
And you don't
and
pay
I-
taxes. You get robbed of taxes. And
It's a little much. Property taxes going up the way they did.
It's harsh. It's harsh. It is. But you
Yeah,
do
it
your
is
due
harsh.
diligence to provide your share of the common distribution of wealth of taxation, and I think that entitles you even more so to run, especially if you have multiple properties, because multiple properties, for those of you who don't know, if you have 1 residence, you pay less. But if you have 2 residences, they jack up the taxes on that second residence and beyond any other residence that you own. And you pay a lot.
Well, and I didn't understand the whole tactic, going to my neighbors to try to dig up something against me is just something I don't even consider in this race or in any race. And it's part of why we need to get people up on the Hill that don't play those games. Those are games. These are games. They're distractions, and it was distracting. I spent a lot of time reaching out to my friends and getting, their information to my attorney. And my attorney actually said, you don't even have to explain why you have 2 residences. It's your right as a human to transition, to do whatever you do.
Well,
But I did want to explain it because I believe in the transparency of it all. And even though I, was hesitant to come on tonight and I was hesitant to share the story, that would be against, things that I stand for, which are, if you're going to do this, let's do it. Let's share truths. Let's be honest, and let's just go out there. And I want to do that from the Hill too. I want to talk about whatever bureaucracy goes up there. It's not hard to get that information to, the citizens. It's not hard. It shouldn't be hard. I plan to use my digital channels the same way I did for this campaign, which is with messages and with what really happens. We shouldn't be in a box when it comes to politics when we vote. Citizens should be fully 100% aware and simply explained how these things happen. But I also hoped that I would inspire more people, with diverse opinions in this city to run for office, whether I win or lose. I want people to feel empowered to be a part of it. And now I want them to know that it's, there's things that you don't even expect, that come at you. And there are political games that are played. And apparently you got to jump in and play them. Now, the other thing that I really want to talk about today is picking up my ballot. So if one of these things happen, you'd be like, okay, but a couple of them. So I did not get my mail-in ballot. I have since received it. So since this has happened, I did receive it this week. But I'm sure it was held up because of the voters challenge. And Scott Wardle was the guy on the city council. He's running
So
unopposed, and that is,
They held up your mail-in ballot because of the voters challenge, saying
I would guess so, because all my neighbors received their ballot and I had not received it. I received mine like Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday. It was just this week. So, but I went in and picked up my ballot last week. And I went to the Deseret Peak. You walk up, you go, there was no one there. It was very simple. You walk up to this little concession stand and you get a ballot. Now, I received a ballot in an envelope. I didn't receive a voter's guide. I'm interested in what other people have received, and here's the reason why. So I said to them, I'm not voting here, because I thought I was going to go in and vote. And I said, I'm not voting here. And they said, no, you don't vote here. You should fill this out in your car and then drop it off at the drop-in at the ballot box on the way out. There was indeed a ballot box there. I am one that goes through and I research judges. So I really look at the judges. So I knew at that point I was going to do it on my phone there, but I thought I'll just, go home and do it at home. When I finished filling out my ballot, I started looking at my envelope, and my envelope is right here. And this is what concerned me gravely. This concerned me a lot because, I had seen my brother's mail-in ballot, and you know what they're like. You've got like sign here, you have your name and address on it. And so I thought, that's really interesting. So I looked at my ballot closer and thought, is there something on here that I sign or fill out or some tracking code? There was not. So I tried calling the county clerk and was unable to get a hold of her that day. But what people need to know that is if you receive this white envelope, your vote is not valid.
yeah,
Your vote will not count.
that looks
So-
like an awful disposable envelope. Like it was.
Yeah, it's like for a
It doesn't
Hallmark
look
card.
very official.
Yeah, and that's all I received. Oh, and I did receive, is it still in here? They also put a little I voted sticker. And it was cute. It was like a silhouette sticker.
I
but
haven't worn one of those in a very long time.
At least you got the sticker.
yeah, I did get the sticker.
Maybe you could borrow me that spare sticker you got so I don't get harassed.
Okay, you can make a Facebook post. But I got this envelope and I just thought, what is this? So I reached out to the lieutenant governor's office and called him and said, like, is there some different mail-in ballot thing going on? He had no idea what I was talking about. Sent in a picture of it. He did get a hold of our county clerk, who said, we don't really know what happened. Maybe there was a blank envelope in her packet, but I didn't get a packet. The woman at window 2 handed me this, looked at it, put it together, and handed this to me, just like this. I got, I don't know if people understand how important this envelope is. It's important because that is how you're tracked. The envelopes you receive in the mail, that's a tracking envelope. Those are the envelopes that count. I don't know what envelopes you receive when you pick it up. I'm sure people have done that. I'm interested in what they did receive, and I'm hoping that it wasn't this, because you walk up there and you trust that you're getting what you want. Now, the county clerk was there supervising. I'm assuming that the job there, when you're in the concession stand area, which is where you pick up your ballots with 3 people, 1 person is there at the window. That was me. And I get this. And I don't know if the training was like, and then sometimes you can hand out blank envelopes, but this wasn't it wasn't covered. It was this, and they put my ballot right under this flap.
So let me get this straight. There were 3 people working the window, one of which was a supervising individual.
The supervisor was standing behind the county clerk. I would assume she's got to be there throughout this process of handing them
That's
out.
Clarendon, right?
Yes. So she
Okay.
was standing in the back behind them. I went to the middle window intentionally. And yeah, They watched this go out. So I responded again to the lieutenant governor's office and said, I'm worried about the training. Like what are people trained on and what should they go out with? And, you can understand my concern as a candidate, but also we hear about things, with voting. And it's really important that we do it right. And it's important that when you go pick up your ballot, that you're getting the right thing. So that was, I haven't heard back from the lieutenant governor's office again because I asked for pictures of what I should have received. And then since that time, I have received my mail-in ballot. So I will be able to get my vote in.
But one of the individuals at the window handed you that envelope. You didn't just pick it up at a random location. The
No.
individual handed it to you.
That's right. Took my ID. They take your ID. You get logged as having been there, I'm sure. But then I got this very envelope.
I'm telling you, folks, these mail-in ballots are a really bad idea this election season. I tell you, I feel very uncomfortable with the whole policy of the mail-in ballots around the whole country and how fragile the system can truly be for the individual vote.
That's right. And when you're picking up your ballot, you got to make sure that you have everything correctly. And also when, because of this blank envelope, I went online and started reading about what are the things you should do to make sure your vote counts. You should look at your driver's license. That's what they have a copy of with your signature on it. And it's not always the same when you sign it on something digitally, those little things. I don't know what they're called, those little stations where you sign your name digitally. It doesn't look the same as when you sign it on a piece of paper. And they can actually disregard your vote based on your signature. And that's a big thing. So you should, online, it'll tell you, look at your driver's license signature and sign it that way. And that's what I plan to do.
And they don't have to inform you whether or not they disregard your vote, correct?
Nope, I don't believe so. Is that right? No, they don't. So you've got to be, yeah, you've got to be on it. And so those things I felt like needed to be told, and especially this one.
Yeah, well, if they were handed out like that officially, that brings up a lot more questions. If there's supposed to be tighter controls and everything else. Now, the ballot they handed you, did it have any of your identification on there, or do they just have a blank printed out ballot that they're going
Just a blank printed out ballot, and I'd show it to you, but I've already filled in all my
Then that
votes.
makes another interface for when they decide to enter that, the means and method of.
If I'd have sent this in, they would never enter it. It would have just
Or
went.
they'd entered what they want you to vote for.
They would not have been, my vote would have been discarded from being in this envelope because there's no tracking system. There's no signature. That would mean that someone could stuff 500 envelopes and drop them in the drop box just like this. And those votes would count with no traceability.
That'd be scary.
Yeah. So these shouldn't be counted. That's outside of the law, the way that it works. So, you can imagine it's pretty easy to get an envelope like this, pretty easy to run a bunch of copies of your ballot. You drop them in with no identification and no information. You could, do whatever you wanted with the election.
What information did the ballot ask for?
Nothing. The ballot, when I picked up my ballot, I had to show ID.
But I mean, on the ballot itself, did you have to fill out a whole bunch like name, address?
Not one thing. All you do is vote.
Ballots are generic. It's the envelope that tracks the individuals.
But I'm saying, let's say the county or some other means but if they're not going off your driver's license or state ID number, address and stuff, if it's just a vote, I mean, that carries as much weight as the vote for high school president.
Exactly. Which could be important to that person running, but
yeah,
right.
But it doesn't cost everybody money.
It doesn't track. So that coupled with the other experience made my campaign folks that helped me on the campaign, quite nervous and upset. And this is questionable to me. This is not, we have one job. County clerks have one job, and that when you're in that room and you've got people handing out ballots and taking people's IDs and making them feel like they're safe and tracked, you walk away and trust it. The reason I didn't trust it is I had seen the mail-in ballots, right? I saw what they looked like. I wasn't exactly sure on how they were tracked, but I saw it. So I knew that this, I said to my brother, I go, what do I do? Put my information. I called him and he said, you sign on the big red box where it says sign your name. And I was like, there's no big red box here. There's no red box on anything.
Yeah, that does feel like there's something shady going on there. It's just
Well, and I just want to say, either Stormy has bad luck, or this was a heck of a 1 in a million coincidence that she got a blank envelope. So either they were passing them out, or considering they tried to stop her vote with the residency and that didn't work. So they said, oh, we're going to give her an envelope. She didn't get a packet. She got an envelope. And they say, oh, we're going to give it to Stormy, of all people who just questioned this and act like nothing. Oh, fill it out in your car and dump it out in the ballot box. It seems fishy to me. And I'm the one that comes out and I am hesitant of having the county clerk who supports her opponent, who has done this, counting the votes.
Well, I do want to mention that my brother is the vice chair for the Tooele County Democratic Party. So his passion for this happening to me would be for any candidate.
Right.
Like he's the vice chair of the Democratic Party. And the chair is also aware and involved, but this is my brother and he's helped me on my campaign. But it does, I think because I'm in it, I don't want to be like, I'm uncomfortable. I like clean campaign. I don't like any hate tactics. I don't like being mean. I like to just run the campaign and hopefully get the votes. And that's where I am as a person.
Go off the issues. That's what it should be, is simply, these are the issues this candidate stands for. These are the issues that candidate stands for. Which issues do you align with more? And that's kind of how you get a pulse of the area. But when it starts getting diluted like that and dirty tactics are brought in, then the issues that the area has don't get addressed. It's all about
and it was distracting, and maybe that's what they intended. And maybe it came from, some sort of spot of passion or something, but I don't know where it came from. I just know that really happened. And if it wasn't for the people in my campaign, I'm not sure I would have shared the story.
Yeah, I know Greg keeps in contact with me. He's got your back.
Yes. But when I did tell my friends and political friends in different states, they were kind of appalled by it. Part of what I've said is I don't like the dirty politics. I don't like little tactics like that. And they don't even cross my mind of doing. But they exist. They exist even in our town, our little town that, again, I can't stress enough, like our families here, we have so many. I think we're definitely one of the highest in the nations for the ratio of children per household right here in our county. Mm-hmm. And it creates a community, right? We have a community here.
That down. They're gonna
friends from when I was 5 years old, like Harris Elementary, where I still drive by it, and I'm so glad someone bought it, and I hope it never gets ripped down. But like these little memories that we have, that you feel like you're a part of the community. And I still want people to run for office. I do. I want them to be aware of what you might be up against. I know I represent a different party than the majority of our city. But it doesn't, like, my heart's still the same. It doesn't matter R or D next to my name. There's no political party that I would ever affiliate with where I would do any those types of tactics, and that's transparency. The transparency of talking about it, and the transparency of letting people know that this may not be for the lighthearted, but the lighthearted need to get involved anyway. And that's, I think it's important.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'd like to say this too. What you held up, that blank envelope, to me is easily considered a coordinated attack from a political party onto another political party, in a system which hundreds of thousands of veterans have sacrificed their lives to preserve the integrity of. And I mean, I myself, I've been overseas many a times on war campaigns for the Republic, and many people that I've encountered and had friendships with have perished fighting for the integrity of this system. So be you Republican or be you Democrat, just know that every time that you try to defile the system in some coordinated attack of such, you are defiling the graves of those who have died to preserve your freedoms.
That's right. I agree with that 100%. And they still fight today.
Well,
And
I want to
coordinated
put a call out.
efforts to keep people out of running on a different party when many are unopposed. It's not the system we want here. We want people to be inspired. We want to give voters a choice. Even if they vote for the person that's running currently running unopposed, as long as people feel like they are, I don't even want to use welcome, but they're entitled to run. It's their right to run. And that, even if they come at you with punches and everything you have to endure, it's worth it, because the narrative can change and diversity can enter, and it's needed and worth it. It makes us better, I think. I hope.
I wonder if anyone else got the same kind of ballot down there at
I do
the
too.
Please
Desert
tell us.
Peak Complex.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that'd
Me-
boil it down to whether it was targeted towards certain people or whether it was. I think that would lay clarity as to whether it was a mistake on a mass scale or whether it was malice.
And I'm not, again, I'm okay with confrontation, but I like to just get through the election and see where the people voted, and, would love to win, but, you can win or lose when you run for office. But, when I first saw this, I was like, I have to say my reaction was more subdued than many's. I talked to a friend today that is an attorney, and he just happens to be an attorney. He's not in our district. He's, another state, but he was really upset. And I needed to hear those things, because I don't want to feel, picked on, and I don't want to believe that, people are targeting me just because I'm, running against an incumbent that happens to be a Republican. I don't want to feel that way. I want to feel welcomed by all the city council people.
And it's a question of what's worse. Is it worse if our county messed up and all the ballots they handed out in that one location, it kind of takes the whole vote away for the state level votes from our county? Or is it worse if our county officials are malicious and vindictive like that and bump someone out? I mean, that's a toss-up. They're both horrible. How do you grade which one is worse on an overall in the overall scheme of everything? Which one would be worse? Both would be horrible, but I'm in my mind going, well, if we've got a county leadership that would do something so vindictive and shady, well, that doesn't bode well for us. Or if we have county leadership that doesn't know their head from their ass and puts out ballots so that it makes it so that anyone from the county that picked up their ballot there, their vote's no longer counted on the state level, well, that's a terrible thing too. Which one's worse? Either way, we've had a massive failure.
Yeah. That's a really good question, actually. That's a really good question. And I definitely want to know the answer, but I hope that a bunch of these didn't go into, I picked mine up on last Friday, the 23rd, I think. Yep, Friday the 23rd. I hope there's not a bunch of blank envelopes in the ballots.
Yeah,
You know,
that'd make it so that the whole county, any vote that's state level that the county needs to have their voice in on, would then be null and void. And so then that would ring true everything I say. Government turns gold into shit, and that's what it'd be doing.
well, I hope, I wish both weren't true. This has been, one of the most interesting experiences of my life. Like I'm proud that I stepped up to do it, and I've had so much fun doing it, even if I had to get off of social media, because it's hard to read comments like that. It's really
What if we
hard.
just make you a new social media?
Yeah,
could change your
and
last
here's some
name.
of them are under fake names.
We
It's
could
like you
change
try
your
to
last
find out who
name
they
to,
are, and it's a fake name, and they're like, "I want to stay anonymous," and I'm thinking, "Me too." I wish I could be anonymous some of these times, but that's not what I signed up for.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't know. I'm quite frank. Even for a non-voter, a person who stands opposed to all that stuff.
I want you to vote so
I'm
much
kidding.
this time. I know that's a vote that nobody's ever gotten if you vote for me.
Maybe
Good
I'll
luck.
go down and figure out how to do it. Just go in there, vote for one person, and then walk out. Yeah.
I'll take it.
I'm not a fan of democracy. I think democracy is the key to failure. I'm sorry to say it, but I just think it is, because it's proven to be such every time it's tried. That scares me, that either we have county officials that are so conniving and vindictive that they would do this, or that we have county officials that are so inept that they would do that. Either one of those scares me, and I don't know which scares me worse. I don't know whether I want Gomer Pyle as my leadership, or I don't know, pick an evil dictator from the past, Hillary Clinton to be my, whatever name you choose. I mean, there's no party to evil. There's just evil. And I don't know which one scares me more.
It could be a third option, Jared. It could be that.
Please make me feel better.
They want the blank envelopes out there so that they can insert tons of blank envelopes and just say, let's count them anyway.
Okay, there you go. That's back to the evil. That's back to the evil that vindictive towards Stormy would still be that same evil. Someone who says, we don't want the voice of our county out there. We want our county to belong to us.
It's suspicious. It's a conspiracy theory at this point in the show. And, I wouldn't be apt to subscribe to conspiracy theories, but I am.
This may be a show on.
I was going to say, don't you like him? I thought you kind of like.
I give up. I can't hold that one.
I have a feeling this might end up on the Wild podcast, whichever way I find out. Under one of the conspiracies, right there behind. I don't know, between Operation Midnight Climax and Report from Iron Mountain. I think it'd slide right in either of those nicely.
I'm gonna have to read about both of those.
I'll tell you about them sometime. One day we're gonna meet in person, have a nice chat, and I don't know. I'll drink a beer and you can drink some green tea. I don't know what people.
Yeah, I'll drink a smoothie.
Whatever people that, I don't know. Do they put grass in it? Yard clippings?
You can if you want. Yes, you can.
Sounds
Fresh yard
delightful.
Hey, but, you got to get over your sickness, and then
He can go to work tomorrow.
can he?
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
I'm over it, but
All right.
with someone running, that's like right now. If I have friends that are in a hazard, like I'm not visiting my grandma for probably another 5 days, and I wouldn't visit someone who's running for office right now, because that would be me, possibly. I mean, it'd be terrible for you to get sick right now.
Yeah, it
And
really
granted,
would.
I'm going to say it. Coronavirus wasn't very bad
For you.
for me. It was, my body ached for a day, and then they told me I can't go back to work. All right. So I painted my front room.
We're planning to have a hell of a victory party though after, so it won't be running for.
I don't want to get cocky.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I mean, I'm hopeful that even sharing this story doesn't put me in a bad light at all. But I promise transparency, and I feel like
It
if I
doesn't.
were to talk about it later, if I hadn't won, it wouldn't look good. But I definitely wanted to talk about it. The rumors were out there, and I'm fine to say where I live and how I live, and that's part of the deal. But I'm not okay with people jumping my fence and taking pictures of my house, and that happened too. And I don't, for me, knocking on neighbors' doors and looking for stuff is just, it's something. Well, let me just put it this way. I don't know what it is, but it's not something I would ever do, ever.
It,
I'm
it
sorry to
feels.
follow up. When we got into this, we knew we had to make up 3,000 votes.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't, and and since about May, I've spent 6 or 7 days with Stormy. I mean, it was fun. It was fun. We were meeting up.
6 or 7.
Yeah, 6. I mean, God,
It's been a lot. Like, we're closer than we've ever been
Right,
because of this
but
election. It's been the best, and my
come-
family support has been amazing.
Well, you get to hang out with your
and
brother.
They took that away though. They took that away October 2nd when they
Fifth.
surged to October 5th. They took that away. And what ticks me off more is it was a plan from August. They were going to take that away.
Yeah, I don't
And-
like the late, putting that in late so that it
Right.
makes it so that you have
But it
to.
was. I mean, to say that the dirty politics, or what do you want to call it, wasn't stressful would be an understatement.
It was
I mean,
stressful. I mean,
you receive people's money, you feel an obligation. I mean, and it's
it was stressful. It was stressful. That's not a lie. It was stressful. This is my first time out. It wasn't, stressful, I guess, to people running my campaign, but I was, it's just, it was fun, and I'm happy I did it, and I'm proud to have done it.
Would you do it again?
I don't know. I just want to get through this and see. I want it to be where you run and you run.
You
I
got to
want
ask her
I
again in
want
4
politics
years
to be
when she
clean.
has to
I don't want to
rerun.
attack people, and I don't want to be attacked. I want it to be like, let's do the best for people. Let's try to make the world as good as we can. That's what it should be. That's what we should be doing. That's what government should be doing. Let's make the best world that we can. Future generation.
Hold on, Stormy.
Uh-oh.
Government makes the world better.
Well, at least you should be thinking. I mean, we should.
I like this optimism. Let's. Anyways, you know what I want to do, Stormy? We've got you on here. People are voting as we speak, or upcoming, and we've got how many more days? What? 6 more days? 7 more days?
No, it's like 5.
5 more
ballots have
days.
to
All
be in
right,
the mail.
Stormy.
Your ballots have to be in the mail by November 2nd. Monday, November 2nd.
If I vote, I'm going to do it in person. I'm going to
Do
lick
it.
the
Hey,
screen.
we got an envelope for you.
Hey, but Stormy, I have 2 things I want to do before we close this out.
Okay.
One is someone very near and dear to me, and knows multiple people who are homeless, and is there do you think a move to put in kind of shelter situations out here in Tooele? I know we don't have a huge homeless population, but there is one, and we've got homeless families and things like that. And I know I'm the anti-government guy, but I do not like to see children being homeless. Is there any kind of move like that, or even a move to, I would like to see Rotary clubs brought back that could also help that out. I know there's still an Elks Lodge around and things like that, but can we, is there any kind of move like that that you've heard of?
I've heard of a house that's coming, and I'm not sure if it's just a rehabilitation house or if it would actually be a place for homeless. But, um, we have a family member that is homeless and elects that. So it's really important to my whole family to have solutions. But interestingly enough, we were out putting up one of the signs that didn't get taken down on Main Street.
Okay.
And it's on this wooden stake. And this guy came up to us and said, "Can I help you? Can I, do you need any help putting it up?" And, he did help us. He helped us with, hammer it in and stuff. And I'm trying to remember his name. I'm thinking it was Kirk. It starts with a C or something. But he told us this story. Now, this guy had tattoos, which, I don't judge at all, but he did. And he said that he had been a drug addict for many years, but his life was clean now. He had a full-time job. He had references from his employer. His wife had been killed when they were in Michigan, I believe, right? And he had just had a hard life, but he had straightened it up. He was in his mid-30s, and he was walking up the street of Tooele and couldn't find a place to live because every time he went in, he had been a felon and he couldn't find a place to live, but he did have money for rent. And he asked, like, do you know of any place I could go? I almost got into one place and then I had my deposit and then they wouldn't take me for whatever reason.
3 jobs or something.
He had 3 jobs. Yeah, he was working and he's living on the
Couldn't
street.
get anywhere to live.
No one would rent to him. So there's probably 2 things that could be addressed. A low income subsidized housing, which I believe that we do have, but there's this moment in life where people deserve a second chance. And that guy was one of them. He really was. And he was broken. He was upset when he was talking to us. In fact, he gave me his bag of candy. He gave me his bag of candy and said, "I don't even want my candy anymore." And then he went and sat, we were in front of the old police station next to the 7-Eleven. And then he went and sat in the phone booth, or not the phone booth, the bus station booth. But there has to be a place for people to go. And now lots of people are in transitional moments and then they get stuck. Maybe it's mental health issues and then they get stuck. Maybe it's someone with a family where COVID just, they lost their job and they're now trying to figure it out. The idea that there's not a spot to take care of folks and help them through transitions bothers me. Shelters are important. No one's going through life without issues. Most families are just one paycheck away from being homeless. That's one issue. But the second issue is if they become homeless. And in my mind, I have been grateful that the big house in Erda was here because people have had to use it during this time. I've been grateful that, my son's in it now. I have a nephew that needed transitional housing and I'm able to do that right now, but not everybody has that option. And I think it's our responsibility as human beings. Forget our community. Don't forget our community, in our community as human beings, but forget the political parties.
Mm-hmm.
Like there has to be a spot. Most of these, a lot of homeless people aren't just so excited to be homeless. They're having troubles. They're in issues. Maybe some of them have been drug addicts and they're not pulling out of it. Well, we should help them too.
It seems like there's kind of more of a push to build, at least locally, to build houses for rehabilitation, but there are some working homeless with children that are in schools and stuff. And
Yeah.
I did hear at one time that they were going to take the old Harris Elementary that closed down?
Yeah.
That they were going to turn part of that
too.
over. And
that's what I heard.
I think we need to have a push for that. And also, I've said this forever, we need to have an adjustment to our felony laws. I think felons, one, there should be no such thing as a felony without violence tied to it. And 2, a felony shouldn't stay on your record after you've served your time. And be it that time is prison and probation, but I think the minute you've met those requirements laid down as just punishment, that felony should fall off your record. It should not be there. You shouldn't have to write it down on anything. It should just end right there. And then you're just a citizen again.
Well, you should always be accepted as a citizen again. Like that is just, if
Yeah.
you've got some violent felony where you've, obviously.
Well, I think once they do their
Horrible
time,
things.
the felony's gone. I don't like that they assign felonies to victimless crimes. I don't like that they assigned the word felony to a guy who distributes narcotics. I don't like that idea. That shouldn't happen. I think the only time someone should have a felony label, adjusted next to their name is when they've committed a violent crime. Other than that, it shouldn't. It should never rise above misdemeanor. And
That's an interesting take. I'm gonna think about that. I've never really thought of it that way, but I do believe that once someone has went through our prison system and they've come out, their rights should be restored.
yep, completely.
That's the way it was set up to be. Now, if the prison system chooses to not help rehabilitate them in whichever way, if they're just sitting there becoming more violent or however it works for them, but the prison system should also support that, should support their rehabilitation and coming back out.
Yeah.
And once they've done that, we should accept them.
I'm not pleased. The 90s was terrible for prison anti-reform, and I'm not pleased that they took a lot of further education out of the prisons, given, I understand that a lot of people are angry, but by giving those inmates tools to get out and get a better job, that just supports lowering recidivism. And also, when they get out and they have that felony tacked on, well, that eliminates just their job pool. Their job pool is cut, by probably 50%, if not more. They can't go work at Walmart. They can't go work where I work my day job. They can't. They just won't hire felons. So we need to make.
Well, I'm proud that at Overstock we did.
And that's good. Yeah, Overstock did a lot of really interesting things. They blazed a trail into internet shopping. They, I think the reason Overstock did that was because it was new. It was in a whole new market. It was kind of started small and did a lot of that. And I'm sure, like a place like Amazon probably had a lot of the same model when it first started. Now Amazon's huge, but
Massive.
it seems like it's the small companies that give people the chance.
And I always wondered why Overstock is not where Amazon is today. I feel like it could have been. So easily could have been.
Yeah, the founder there
Stormy
had different
left.
ideas. Amazon started as the world's largest bookstore,
Yeah.
right? If you guys remember, they just sold books. And from that, they started adding things, media, and then their web services really provided a lot of income and revenue to be able to propel into what they are today. But, the founder of Overstock just really had the idea of having a curated selection from everybody that you trust, never turned it into a marketplace where people could just load their products up. And it was always a really handhold situation with both the customers and the vendors. So we knew every vendor by name. We knew the products they put up. We developed great relationships with them. And Overstock held that for quite some time. I think they're still there. But it was just the decision that he made, where Amazon really kind of did the hybrid of the eBay model for businesses.
Yeah, eBay was the Wild West. And then,
Oh my gosh, eBay. eBay was so fun in its day.
yeah.
Those auctions were a blast.
Oh,
You'd
man.
find anything.
Yeah,
I'd be so addicted. I'd be like, they outbid me? What?
yeah, that was fun. You'd watch those 5-day bids and you're on there every hour, and then the last day you're on there watching it, trying to get that last click in.
clicking that button, and then they created those bots that would go auto bid for you. Kind of
yeah.
took the fun out of it.
It did. And also, eBay doesn't sell some of the stuff on there that I used to go on and bid for. I used to buy a lot of firearms.
I knew you were going to say
accessories.
that. I knew that's why you bought there.
Well, what else am I going to buy there? I don't collect. Name a
Firearms and
Coins?
microphones. That's all he buys.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what you're going to buy next, the microphone.
Yeah,
You already did.
we need to get Dave set up with something over there. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's interesting to think about how in the 90s I think there was a wave of failures, and it came from both parties, to be honest. But there was just a wave of failures in the 90s, and for some reason they've stuck. And I mean, of course, we've had failures through the 60s and 70s. You know, my gosh, it was in what, 62 when they put in the bill to it was actually JFK that signed it, that put into the bill saying that you can't involuntarily institutionalize people, which went from maybe they would institutionalize people too easy and too fast, but it swung it all the way back the other way, that it flooded our streets with people who ended up homeless and endangered. And I think that governments are afraid to admit mistakes, so they never take a look back on what they did and say, wait, we got to tweak this and make it better. We've just got to say, oh, blaze ahead, everything's perfect. Don't look behind there, just blaze ahead. And I think the 94 crime bill should be first of all, it should be abolished right now. We should leave it up to the states and let the states modify their criminal justice system the way they want, and then we'll have a melting pot of ideas. Utah may do one thing right. Maybe Utah forces them to go to church on Sundays, and that's proven to be a good thing. And Nevada might, force them to learn a trade in fixing, one-armed bandits, and that might be a good thing. And then different states can take different ideas and mix and try, and it's just quicker to change things on a state level.
Yeah, I think that everybody deserves a second chance. That's what I really do believe, that people change, we change, government makes decisions where they swing too far one way or swing too far the other. But again, that middle is where, sometimes magic can happen, where you eventually get there, and it could happen.
Yeah, in the 90s.
Maybe in 10 years, you'll be like, I love the government so much. I just love them so much. Can't wait.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll go running into that one. Go hug a Federal,
You might.
go hug a Federal Reserve building while I'm at it.
Never say never.
Thank you for all the inflation and negative savings. Yeah, I do hope that we get good people into government. I definitely hope that. And I hope that, I don't know if I want the ear of them, but I would like to be a voice in their ear to say.
You should be. You know enough about things that happen, like even the spill that you spoke of. Like with that type of knowledge, you need to be in there. Why wouldn't you? If you don't like it, be the change. That sounds just like a
Well,
slogan.
first I'm going to get the Hughes Act thrown out. And then I'm going to force David in, and then I'm going to hold David by a collar. That's my plan.
The Hatch Act holds me back.
Oh, yeah, the Hatch Act, not the Hughes Act. The Hatch Act.
The Hatch Act prevents people like me from participating.
Actually, there's an argument about that up right now. I don't know if you're aware of that, Dave, but there's a couple arguments up about that.
Well, there should be.
You don't hold decision-making abilities in the government, so you should be able to run. But hopefully that argument comes through, and then Dave can, go run for office, and I'll be in the wings wearing a black robe like the emperor and whispering in his ear.
Should be a purple velvet robe.
A purple velvet robe.
Yeah, why not?
You know why purple is the royalty color, don't you?
No.
It goes all the way back to ancient Greece and Rome, and all the way back to modernity. as they say.
They'd extract it for moisture type creatures.
They would get it from different sea life. Ink. It was ink from sea life, and it was very expensive to get. So they would wear that because it was so expensive to dye stuff that color of purple, until people figured out a good fabric dye that was blue that closely matched it. But the clause of that is when you wore it, it stunk so bad. It was purple. It was horrible. But royalty stunk like ocean life, like, I guess octopus.
So all the people standing as they walked through the middle of the street, they weren't standing back out of respect. They were standing back because they smelled so bad.
Yeah, it would be considered unsightly to hold your nose, but I'll bet some kids did it in the back.
They were way back.
But yeah, that's where the royal purple comes from, because it was so expensive, because the color, the visual side of it was rare, but the stench reportedly was horrendous.
See, where do you get all this knowledge? You're like Cliff Claiborne. From
Who's Cliff? Oh,
from Cheers.
You think he's a professional podcaster?
Right.
I'm just a well full of knowledge that means nothing and provides nothing to anyone's life.
It actually provides a lot. Everybody
yes.
learned at least one thing today.
But before we close this out, Stormy, people are still voting. Tell them why to vote for you.
Well, one of the reasons I ran is because when they vote in the legislature, I will never overturn what they vote, even if I agree more with what's happening next. Once the vote comes out, whether it's Medicaid, whether it's cannabis law, whether it's food tax, whether it's gerrymandering, that's the vote. That's the purpose of the vote, and that's how it should be. And that's probably one of the most important things. A lot of things were voted. I'm against any more nuclear waste entering our state. I'm against that. That got voted through last March, I think. The other reasons is because I am different from a politician. I want to be clear and transparent with the whole process or the bureaucracy that might be, I know as a citizen, I get frustrated and I wonder why. Like, why can't this go this way? Or why was that happening? Or why was food tax increased even proposed? Well, I feel like getting in there and being able to share it and bringing it back to the folks that make the vote, the people that would be me if I wasn't running, is something that should be able to be done. Like, we should be able to have more transparency. We should be able to have constituent care. We should be able to cut through bureaucracy. And if we can't, I want to share that too. But I don't want party lines. I don't want politics to be ugly. I don't want party lines to make decisions for us. I want us to make decisions for us. And that's where I think, politics have gone wrong. I don't ever want to be pitted against somebody or look for something bad that they've done. I have to look into their background or something like that. I don't want to be that person ever. And, in Tooele, because I love it here. I've raised, I don't want to sound too much like a politician, but the truth is I raised my boys here till I had to move into Salt Lake for work. And my granddaughter and her brother are being raised here. And it's a beautiful place, and it should be. And I want it to stay that way. And I want it to stay inviting and warm. And I want people to feel like they can be on the hill too, and that they are as important as any politician when it comes to making decisions or having a voice in our state. But, I want to keep it as honest and as open as possible. And if the day ever comes where, I couldn't respond to respectful people, then I'd want to say why. Like, if it really is impossible to do that as a state legislator, if that is impossible, I want to tell people why that would be impossible. And I guess those would be reasons to vote for me. Outstanding.
Well, and also, I I like the fact that you're friends with the great Jim McMahon. So,
I love Jim. Yeah, I love
well, we
Jim.
talked about this last time. We're both Bears fans.
Yes, go Bears.
Yeah, go. Yay. Keep,
Yep.
keep letting me down.
And this year it is a kind of a go Bears year. We're doing pretty good.
Yeah, we're
Whatever.
doing all right.
5-2. That's like our best winning season for I don't know how long.
I know. The man, you know, it all started when I was a little kid, and my dad bought me a football helmet for Christmas, and it was navy blue with an orange C on it, and I've been stuck ever since.
It's a good place to be stuck. There's no, like, I love going to Soldier Field, and I love all football stadiums, but Soldier Field's just got that, you know, old feeling to it. And it's just something great about being out there freezing, but yet still being involved in the game, win or lose.
Yeah, one time I'd like to talk to you offline about some of the stuff you talked about with him on the on your show.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed that show. It was haunted by a sound
Maybe
issue.
we can get him on your show.
Come on here and maybe we could talk about guns. He's moving down to Mexico though.
Yeah, he's a, you know, he's a pretty, it meant a lot when he said he would endorse me. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It meant
Oh
a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah, you know, politically you guys don't align on national politics, but I don't see why anyone couldn't align with you on local politics. When you say your vote counts, that's essentially what you're saying. When you vote for something, that's what I'm going to go for. And then you talk about you're going to when Doug was on here, he talked about how they do a lot of dealings behind closed doors to work out the finer details. And Dave brought up a good point. That's kind of shady. But when you talk about you just want it to be open and transparent, I like that. Now, if you would do me a
Even
favor,
if there are things that have to happen behind closed doors, why can't that come out afterwards? Like,
Yeah.
hey, here's what happened behind the closed doors, and here's why.
here's why we went that way. You know, I think that's a good idea, and I agree. There was a substantial bill that everyone voted for. Not everyone, but a majority voted for last time that just got stifled, just got shut down.
A couple of them.
Well, there was one substantial one that has a lot to do with our criminal justice reform as well. And it shouldn't have went that way. That's not how it should have played out. Well, first of all, I mean, I'd like to go back to the 20s and say, you know, well, go back to 1918. Well, you know what? I'm going to go back to 1913 and say we're heading down a bad path. Woodrow Wilson's a cocksucker. Let's just float him out on a boat and let him pretend he's president. And let's see how the nation turns out if we don't do any of that shit. Let's just start there.
Well, can we go to 1920 so I can vote too?
You know what? I'm a nominal supporter of the 19th Amendment if we have to.
I like it right where I am, Jared.
Yeah, I think I'll take the internet.
Well, no, I just want to go visit and just, you know, say Woodrow Wilson's a shitbag. Don't vote him in. You know, and just see if well, I mean, we'd have to go back a lot further if we want to save the republic. But I guess
There's
I don't
a lot
need
of
to go
stuff
off on
that'd
too
be
big of a-
interesting to go back on. and
Shoulda,
just
woulda,
see.
coulda.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. But yeah, Stormy, we definitely like you here, and we want you back after it's all said and done.
I would love that. I'd love to come talk about
I want to
whatever
hear.
there is to talk about.
Well, we could talk about the Bears. Oh, remember when they lost this game? Yeah, that was terrible. And then
Well,
I'll
for
drink
sure
some
we can
beer.
do that.
But
And we
but
can
I
talk
would
about
like to.
Broncos, is it?
What's that?
And Dave likes the Broncos.
I'm a Giants fan.
Yeah,
Giants. That's
he's from
right.
New
There's not
York.
much difference.
Well,
Okay.
we can talk about the
There's
Giants
the Giants here.
post Eli years.
Yeah, but I'd like to have you come on, and one time I'd like to talk about Overstock and building that up here in the county. And
Yeah.
and I
You know
would
what
also,
happened there? I do want to bring something up. So we brought the call center out. It was something that I wanted to do. The the minute that I was in a position and we were doing remote offices for our customer care. It was something I really wanted to do, was bring it here. And bringing it here meant a lot to me. And it was probably 150 jobs, maybe even more. When we took an office in the school district building out on the old Army Depot, and we had to wire it, we had to get it ready, we made the offices beautiful, and then the lease ran up. The lease ran out, and the school district wanted the space back. We couldn't find anything that was affordable within the range that we needed to operate the call center within here in the city. Like there was even the option for the old over by Dairy Delight, that old grocery store. What was
Oh
that
yeah.
Allen's.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an option at the time, but to get it together and, the investment it would have taken to put in was more expensive than the location that we chose. But that was the reason that the jobs left. It was because we couldn't get a lease space where we didn't have to put in the same type of investment up front at the price that we needed to run the call center and, keep our budget right.
Well, that's
So
right.
that was-
You had a
Put it in
plan. You had a
government
business
service.
plan that would have been shot. Well, and nowadays, I mean, all you'd have to do is have a downloadable packet for whoever you hire, and they can do it from home.
That's right. It's pretty amazing.
It's-
Yeah. And I think every company's figured that out.
Yeah,
There used to be this
finally.
fear of like, we could never operate from home. Turns out everybody can.
Well, COVID has done a positive change. It's going to make a green world. We're going to save a dolphin and such.
I would love to see more jobs come out this way. I really would. And
Yeah.
like to find out how to, we've got great people in this town. They're
We
all
do.
driving to Salt Lake for work.
Yep.
And we've got such beauty and space
Hmm.
that it would be a good thing. I would love to be in a position where I could do, bring in another 150 jobs.
If only Overstock wouldn't have tied itself in with a government building from the start.
Can you imagine?
But yes, Stormy, we definitely support you here. And
Thank you.
hey, I've seen all sorts of positive stuff about you in the stuff that is put up on our page.
I appreciate it so much. I really do.
Yeah.
It's almost a little bit of comfort hugs
Good.
every
Huh?
time something comes up.
Well, consider it comfort hugs, and then after you win, we'll chalk out a time to have you on the show, and we'll talk about what it was like running, and I would like to sit down and have a chat about what it was like, managing. I mean, you managed a huge business, but you did a lot of it out here, and I like that.
Yep, me too. Made me happy. Made me proud to be able to do it. Really,
Yeah,
we did.
I like it. Well, we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so
Definitely.
much. Dave, did we block you out of the conversation?
Jared, he can't shut his mouth. Don't worry.
I didn't want to do that.
I can't help
Um,
myself.
Well, thanks for having me on
Yes,
again. I enjoyed
anytime.
you guys.
Thank you, Stormy.
Yes, and
Yeah.
thank you, Greg. Thank you for jumping on here all the time and posting stuff.
Hey, I appreciate it. You guys really are an important voice for Twilla.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you guys become rich and famous, will you have us on again?
With Jim McMahon?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
Jim McMahon becomes your co-host?
You'll remember it'd be the Jared and David show with
Jim McMahon.
Jimmy.
Oh man, I hope one day that I just become, in the black with this show.
It'll happen.
Yeah, because you can be a felon and still be a podcaster, right?
Correct. You can. Yeah, you can be a felon and do a lot of things. It seems like with the felony clause, it's mostly corporations that keep people out.
Yeah.
It's not
And
on government orders. It's
Housing.
Yeah.
Housing is important.
housing and corporations, and we've got I think the best way to deal with it is cut the head off the snake. We can trim some scales off the side or shave the tail off, but we got to cut the head off, and that's doing away with the felony.
Well, I want to remind everyone that you're only allowed to do your pickup ballots today and tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow's the last day you can pick up your ballot, and you have to have anything that goes through the mail postmarked by the November 2nd. That's Monday, not Tuesday.
Okay.
No blank envelopes.
And if not, you got to deliver it personally. And there's Dropbox ballots
Right.
in front of the city building, and you can go online and find out where those are. But
How late is the Deseret Peak open?
I think it's 1 to 5. So there's only a 4-hour window to
1
do
to
that.
5. See, that's going to be hard for me to get my ballot.
Yeah.
Do they still have voting in person?
No.
Well, even on the
I don't
2nd,
think
on the
so.
3rd.
Not in Tualatin County.
You're screwed, Jared. You're screwed.
Oh,
Jared, this is where you have to make it happen.
I have to make it happen. Have
This
to
is
tell
it.
my work I have to leave for 1 hour to go get my ballot to vote. And
Yeah,
they
you
all
should have
know
pulled
my
one more
political
COVID day.
feelings. They're all going to
He's
pass
holding
out
for
from it.
blockchain technology.
Yes.
It is time to modernize how we vote. We can do a lot of stuff. It's time to figure out how to do it right.
It can happen.
Agreed.
Well,
Can
thank
happen.
you so much for coming on. And
Thank you, guys.
seriously, you guys are welcome back anytime, even if just for a few minutes. And maybe next time we can slide Greg's chair into camera.
I know, I was trying to squeezing this over. He doesn't
Here.
want to be on camera. He tells me before we start.
Yeah.
And that's why he does his cameos.
Oh, he just pokes a head in every once in a while, says something.
Yeah.
and ducks
He
back
pokes
out.
ahead in to say things he wish I'd say.
No. Yeah.
Well, that's what you need brothers for. That's what they do.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Hey, thanks so much, guys, and have a wonderful night.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
guys.
Take
You
care, guys.
too. Appreciate you.
Yes.